Woo!
Good afternoon. It is me, PJ, the CEO of Reality Dreamers, with the amazing hopes, Peter Lynch of Unshakable. Today is episode fucking 11, guys. Super exciting. And
Yeah.
title is Shattering the Silence of Men's Mental Health and Authenticity. I wanted to dive deep into this one today because, Peter, I want your expertise, your amazing divine knowledge into dissecting topics, regurgitating it with your truth. I feel, especially with men, since we constantly have to emotions, we are never our true self. It's always some kind of facade slash guise that we are wearing in order to either di- diverge a perspective from our loved ones and others, to not see our true self because we have to man up. We're supposed to uphold this kind of hierarchy and power, which I can't wait to destroy this patriarchy with you, one by one, breaking their limbs. But for me personally, as a little kid, even though I had friends, I felt so alone and not knowing how to convey these emotions, not knowing how to deal with these emotions, and I didn't even know how to confront my family members about it because it was just weird. Like, how do I tell somebody that somebody's physically beating me, that I am being called names, and I don't know how to make connections? Because then it seems like I'm not quote unquote normal. So I dealt with that for many years, and I had a client today. We had a great conversation about business, and then she was talking about just battling anxiety and depression. She just like, yeah, you just push through it. I'm like, that's not that easy. She's like, yeah, you guys just complain. You guys take medicine for everything. I'm like, I'm not taking medicine. I go to the gym. She's like, what if you hurt yourself? I'm like, oh, well, I keep going to the gym and I push through it. I don't, I
Right
take
back at
off,
you.
but
Huh?
like, I was kind of conflicted because she was just like, you can't
Older
drink.
generation.
And I'm like, yeah, she's 40. She's 40,
Okay.
and I give her a lot of props for. She is actually an immigrant that recently got her visa, opened up her own business, doing this all by herself. So she's managing a showroom. She's the designer, and it was amazing. She's
All
just
right.
like, yeah, I want to do my business. I like money. It's a game, and I was like, how can I cultivate her knowledge and use it in men's mental health? Because a lot of what she said, there was some truth to it. Like, I love
Yeah.
the fact that she made making money a game, how life is just, for her, it's, I'm stressed, I do something, and then that moment passes. But I feel
Mm.
like for men, is we're stressed, we're upset, we're angry, and we just bottle it up. And it's a tight little jar. And in that jar, we just stuff it more and more with society's expectations, our family's expectations, our partner's expectations, our fears and anxieties for are we living up to the standard that we want our kids to be? For me, is like, my baby is my dog. That's my baby. Like, am I going to give her that backyard that she deserves? How do we process all this in a healthy way and fighting start fighting for what is right for men, what is just for men? Because I went to a show the other day, and I got laughed at and ridiculed slightly in sarcastic jabs, and I was just like, hey, like, I get to do my own business, and I know I'm going to be more successful than you. You have your own business, but this here, my heart, I know is going to mean more to me and others than what you have done. And it wasn't a jab at him. I have to be in the state of being. Nobody needs to mess with my flow of energy.
Yeah.
But I know that was a lot. It was a mouthful, and it's like always on the tip of my tongue, just regurgitating, just waiting for the right time to capture the moment, seize the moment. So what I love is working with you, being partners with you, is, dude, everything we done, it's just like you said. The moment comes. the opportunities come, it's in such a constant flow that even when there's bad, it's either a learning experience or it immediately flips to something either positive or an opportunity. And it's just like, fuck, Peter's right. Being in the state is being is amazing. And I want more men to realize that, like, hey, it's okay to get help and ask for help. Um, I think that's the trigger, right? Is asking what is help.
Well, let's ask why. The reason why is because to ask for help is to acknowledge that you need help. And who wants to do that? Right? That's what we're really up against. To ask for help, I know. You're correct, right? You had the courage to say, all right, this is off. I want to change. I'm going to reach out and find the appropriate resources and the appropriate help. Right? And you've worked with others, and then we work together, and you've been having breakthroughs, right? And that is your, that's always the beauty of it that I come back to, is that that's your work. The victory is yours, you know, because you, first of all, you took the courageous action, first of all, of acknowledging I need help. And then the second follow-up step, which is to ask for the damn help. And then just in the, you know, and that's part of the place where is just the decision or the intention. So you can't undervalue just the simple intention of I'm going to get better. Just the simple intention of I'm going to take action, right? And then follow it up. Don't just intend and then sit on the couch, obviously, but right, just a simple action. An intention followed by an action is already life-changing. So what that I would say is define it as decision. A decision is a belief paired with an action. Inspiration and action together is a decision, because if you haven't acted on it, you never really decided. So if you decide I'm going to make my life better, what are you doing? Are you going to do the classic Jordan Peterson and pick your room up? That's a great start, by the way. You know, are you going to, I don't, or are you going to join the Brotherhood? Even better. You know what I mean? But I mean, how are you then? What's the action you take if you say I'm going to do something? Well, it's not a decision until you act on it, right? But here's the thing: is yeah, it's scary because to reach out and ask for help for men, because we are on many levels trained. There's a deep biological need. It's not just a like a societal construct. There's a deep biological need for men to be strong. The societal constructs that come in twist that and turn it into other things as well, right? But there's a deep biological need. Men need strength, and we are gifted with a great deal of strength. But there needs to be a time when you're able to put your shield down. St. Anthony the Great, one of the founders of monasticism, you know, at one point he was in the desert with his monks at a oasis or at the river, something like that, you know. And the monks were actually relaxing. They weren't fasting, they weren't praying. They had some like a feast, a monastic feast. It's still like, you know, but still they were enjoying themselves by the river, and some hunters came along and they were scandalized. So I thought, how dare you monks be having a good time, right? Let's bring our judgment, you
I
know,
hate that.
because they're
It's
probably
always
not very, you
around.
know, yeah, I know, right? It's like a classic human nature. We're all guilty of it. So the monks, the hunters come out and they're judging, and St. Anthony is, you know, super perceptive and can tell what's going on. So he goes up to him and he just says, "Would you what is it?" He just asked him about their bow. He says, "So when you're done hunting, are you going to keep your bow strong?" I said, "No, of course not. We unstring our bow." Now, the reason I think he asks them why, but I'll just say that, you know, I'm just paraphrasing the whole story here, and the reason why is because if you leave your bow strong, the tension that puts on the bow itself, it'll degrade the string and it'll wear out the bow, right? The bows have a certain kind of lifespan to them. a great bow is going to last a long time and fire well, but still you're putting a great deal of stress and tension on that bow by keeping it strung all the time, which is keeping the string taut and the bow in tension, right? So so they're saying, no, of course not. We unstring our bow and let it relax, let it recuperate when we're done so we can use it well next time. And he goes, well, it's the same for the monks. They need a break too. So the point of that being that for men, we need a time when we can put our shield down. You can put your sword down, and not be in a place where you need to be strong, because your true strength is only going to come in the weakness of vulnerability. Because if you're not willing to confront your weakness, you will never find true strength. If you're not willing to confront and own and acknowledge your weakness, your strength will be a facade. And that is that is the red pill world. Throw that jab right out there.
I don't know. Do you think
What's that?
you think they're ready? Do you think they're ready to diverge in that red pill, blue pill next week?
Yeah, I think next week or so. We didn't make it the topic for today, so I feel a little bad just making that the cold plunge. But I mean, red pill, blue pill, it's a stupid choice that's offered as though there's only those two choices, and both of them are idiotic. So,
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that. That's the teaser for next week. We'll dive deeper into that. But yeah, so yeah, man, it takes strength to ask for help because you're acknowledging the truth. And if you're not willing to, it's as stupid as if you break your arm. So this is the thing. Then when it comes to the stigma around mental health, which pisses me off, because it's as stupid as if you break your arm, what are you going to do? Go around and say, I'm fine. If you get injured at the gym,
I mean,
you know what I mean? What are you going to do? Go around and be, I'm fine. No, of course not. Especially if you break your arm. I mean, I know you get injured at the gym and a lot of guys just, I'm fine.
I'll fucking lose my shit.
You break your arm, what do? You go to the doctor, unless you're an idiot.
I work out legs.
You're like,
if American healthcare system was more affordable, yeah, I would definitely go to the doctor. I mean, fortunately, I put in the money and it was almost 10 grand. And this is what I understand certain men, but definitely fix yourself, guys. Just don't listen to me. Fix yourself first. But just remember, our healthcare system's fucked.
yeah, no, I mean, fair point. So, you break your arm, you do something about it. Let's put it that way, right? What are you gonna? You're gonna look for. Oh, how do I heal? Mm-hmm. And if you break your arm, is there a stigma around that? Like, oh, you must be a bad person. You must not be good enough. Your bones must be brittle. Like, I don't know. No, you broke your arm. I mean, I guess some people might, and it might matter like what went into it. Some people might want to, because people are going to judge. Listen, judgers are going to judge. I mean, go back in what was that, last week or the week before, number 9? Go listen to number 9, where we talk about cutting out toxic people. Judgers are toxic because they're judging themselves, and then when you show up, they're going to just judge you because they're sick of judging themselves. Forget them. The bottom line important thing is just like, if you're hurt, maybe an arm break's even a bad example, because some dudes I know are so damn stubborn, myself being one of them. But like, if you lacerate an artery, well, you damn well better do something about it, otherwise you're going to bleed out. But we treat mental health as though somehow it's like, I mean, the bottom line is that there's shame attached to it, and that's a theme that we talk about: guilt and shame, right? Guilt and shame are toxic, extraordinarily toxic, and they destroy your ability to just heal and process. Because when we have shame around things, we usually try to keep it hidden and secret, and then you can't heal. So there's not, like, mental health is the same damn thing as if you break your arm. And the pain, here's the other thing, is we as a society treat mental health as though it's a pain to numb. And that's a real problem, right? Just try to suppress it. That's what medication is, generally, right? And there's reasons to take medication. I'm not going to tell anybody don't take medication. That's not a stance, right? There's valid times. But what bothers me is when medication is treated as though, oh, that's the solution. It's not the solution. It's a suppressant, and it's a crutch. You don't get on crutches and then say, well, this is the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Now, okay, so back to our problem with our medical system here is that we have a system, I mean, it's a cultural issue, I think, of prescribing disability, and then people identify with it. And that's going to tie back into this idea of, finding your authenticity, your true self. But is breaking the old identity so that you can become something new. You can become your true self. But we get used to an identity, and that identity is usually on a crutch. So then the problem is we identify with a crutch, and we think, oh, this crutch is a part of me. I could never live without this crutch. Right? And that's the issue. And that's the same thing as we talked about last week. Don't identify with your emotions unless you want to be ruled by your emotions. You just let them pass. Same thing with mental health. If you break your arm, you don't identify with, I am now a broken arm. No, you broke your arm. It's okay. Same thing with depression. I am now depressed. No, that's the problem is then we get depressed and we think, oh, so I think that's where the polarity and the stigma comes from, is because we've treated it somehow as though it's like, it's this mark on your identity almost. I'm experiencing depression is a lot different than I'm depressed. You know what I mean? Yeah, same thing with anxiety. I'm feeling anxiety. Well, yeah, shocker. Everybody does to some extent. It's a natural part of life. It's part of, it's part of your wiring. It's part of your system. And the anxiety will get, so back to just the idea of pain. When you break your arm, there's an immense amount of pain. Pain is not there to make you it's not there as a punishment. We don't live in a sadistic world. We don't have a sadistic universe, sadistic God, where it's like, oh, you messed up, now you deserve pain. Like some people I know. Sheesh. You must be punished with pain. No, that's not why. It's just the pain's just there because it gets right. It cuts through all the other stimuli that we have. It's like, oh man, this hurts. I better do something about it. So when we experience mental health, it's the same damn thing. We have mental pain, but somehow we've miswired that one. And it's like, hide it, suppress it because it's shameful. And that's the real issue.
Yep.
I mean, if there was, there was one of many things. If there was one thing I could just rip out of our society, it would be the shame around mental health, because it's stupid to treat guys like there's something wrong with them because they're experiencing mental health, and it leads to all kinds of overcompensation, and that leads to perpetuation of the underlying issue. So that was my mouthful.
Listen, we could keep going. That's just what we do. We spit it back, we cut it up, we dice it up, make it easy for you guys to understand it, and hopefully process whatever you guys are going through, whatever obstacles, trials, and tribulations, and give us some feedback. What do you guys want to hear? What are you guys struggling with? Like, we're here to have a discussion in order for everybody to get 1% better than yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And I know, like, as I got older, I'm so much more comfortable talking about therapy. I'm able to talk about my family members and friends about battles with suicidal tendencies and depression and anxiety. It is what it is, but it's not. It's part of my identity and where I've grown away from.
Yeah.
But I could talk about it in order for other people in order for them to develop better. And like, also, nothing is linear, guys. Like, especially for men, not to get X, Y, Z, buy that house, get that dog, get that partner, get that kid. No, you're all on this trajectory of figuring out who you are. And figuring out who you are is a path of self-love, getting help, talking, even if it's to yourself. Like, I talk to myself in the van, which is what I drive for work every day, and I'm like, what am I going to accomplish? What I'm going to hit at the gym? What are my goals? And you got to visualize things, talk it out, because the number one person that's going to be there for yourself, first and foremost, is yourself. If you can't love yourself, that's an issue, then you're constantly gonna have problems in your relationships, with your career, with your friends, with family members. Yo, drink water, take a walk, go to the goddamn gym for Christ's sake. If you don't like going to the gym, be active outside. Get some vitamin D. Um, and not lean into bad habits. Like I didn't realize one of my bad habits, because pain is release, is getting tattooed. I love it. I love it because I get to be myself and I get to create my visual identity. And for me, it's the soul doesn't die in my eyes. The soul is energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. So once this flesh deteriorates, it's either I get reincarnated or hopefully go to heaven. I'm praying. I've been trying to do good, God. I've been trying to do good, try to be better. I could have a really awful sense of humor, but this is our body. This is our temple. We have to take care of it. And taking care of it is eating the right. Aren't we have?
Cutting in a
But
little
it
bit.
doesn't mean that they're right for us. I got cut out.
Oh, yeah, cut out pretty solid. But yeah, let's just continue on that point of this idea of self-love, self-respect, right? And it really just becomes a contemplation. If you're trying to fill the void, if you don't respect yourself, you're going to look for respect in other people. And then what's that going to do is it's going to put you in a position where unconsciously you're going to do things that violate your own integrity because you're looking for the affirmation of others. I speak from experience. Same thing with love. But really, men are driven more by respect than by love. I mean, that's it's not that there's a problem with love. There's not. It's just that the real currency for men is a sense of respect. We look for respect. That's what drives the masculine mind with all of the stuff about getting the house, getting the achievement-based stuff. And for some, it's higher than others. And there's certain things you can look at that'll help you understand yourself better in that way, like the Enneagram, personality tests, etc. All right, he is back. I was just riffing a little bit more about, your point on
My bad,
self-love. You got to
guys.
love yourself, because if you're not going to love yourself, you're going to look for it in others, right? Same with respect. If you don't respect yourself, you're
That's
going
a
to look for,
problem.
yeah, because the reason is because you'll violate your integrity to seek the affirmation, to fill the void that you're not filling within yourself, and nobody can fill it for you. And that's what turns you into the idea of a simp, which people do for all kinds of things, but not just to women, right? It's just like, I just call it the loose umbilical cord syndrome. Umbilical cord still flapping around in the wind going, "Mommy, feed me,
I can't help
right?
it. I can't
Take
help
care of
it.
me." And our
Well,
job is to take care of ourselves, learn to, and that's the interesting duality in this of asking for help. And, and it's like, well, if you come to me, what's going to happen is I'm not going to give, because it would be against my whole philosophy and approach. I'm not going to give you, like, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to ask you questions so you can learn to help yourself. Because if I can't do that, I damn well shouldn't be a coach, right? Like, that's how I look at it. Is yeah, because my job is just simply to empower others to do that work, to find where it is within yourself that needs healing, that's a hard process. That's a heavy hitter, because you've got to be willing to look yourself in the mirror, face up to where, man, just all the nuances of how we create a false identity for ourselves, which feels good at the time. We can become
mhm.
over-attached even to capability. Here's a weird one, right? All right, so I mean, easy one is looks or money or anything that, and I use those two because they're passing, they're fleeting. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, you're gonna get old. At some point, you're going to get wrinkles. At some point, you're not going to, right? You might be the stud, the killer stud right now. You might have the hair, whatever it is, right? That we get attached to. And then one day you don't have hair anymore, like me. And now I'm kind of attached to my bald head. I mean, honestly, I like it a lot more. But, right, the thing is, like, if you're not really developing yourself, if you're just attached to some fleeting thing or money, or just your car, whatever it is, your current success does not, it's a dangerous place to go, to start to feel like, oh, that's somehow fulfilling, you know? What am I getting at here? It's just that you got to dig deeper. You've got to be willing to do the real work within yourself of facing yourself. And that's what, yeah, that's right. So realizing that the current identity might feel good because it might be based on a current strength, but where we think we're strong is our greatest vulnerability. That's a right, because when we think we're strong, we're setting ourselves up for failure, because you will become rigid, you will become stiff, you will put your guard down. And if you've just been leaning on that one area that you feel like you're good, you've got it, you're strong, you can kind of push through, and this is the danger of pushing through. At some point you'll find a place where you cannot push through. And if you're not prepared for that, it'll crush you. And the way you prepare for that is going deep within your own heart. And that will crush you as well. It'll break you down so that you can be reborn.
Yeah. Even in your darkest hours, guys, that's when you kind of learn what you don't want, what you want in your life, and then you get to restructure your identity. I think that's what a lot of us are worried about. Like, we're so used to the good old days, and you reminisce on these past experience of who you were, who you were around.
Uncle Rico.
But my thing is, Uncle Rico, who's
Napoleon Dynamite? Uncle Rico.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a throwback,
dude.
Holy moly!
I mean, yeah. If you didn't know what I was talking about, it was about to be over. I was about to just kick you right off this thing. Can't co-host show with me if you don't know who Uncle Rico. Napoleon Dynamite. What you doing here, Uncle Rico? Uncle Rico is a perfect example of somebody who's living in the past because he's over attached to his identity, never moved beyond. So he remains an immature imbecile his entire life because he's still attached to, oh, good old man, back in the day, I could throw this football over those mountains. You know, he's filming himself throwing the football at and it's like, it's weird. I lived in a town where I met guys like that too. Just talking about the high school football days. And I'm like, God damn. What? You're 60. Have you not lived? You know what I mean? Why are you talking about the damn high school football? Yeah. So great. If you were a high school football champ, good for you. But you got to grow beyond that, right? So that's the problem when we get over attached to one specific identity, and then we just get wrapped up in it. It was like, well, that's not going to carry you. What else are you, a dynamic person? If you have a rigid identity, you are not dynamic, And here's the thing: rigid is dead. Right?
Yes.
Lao Tzu speaks to that. That in nature, everything that is young and new and growing is supple. But things that are rigid are dying or dead. When things become old and close to death, they become rigid and brittle. So if your identity becomes rigid and brittle, man, I just think that's one of the most dangerous places you can be, is to have a rigid and brittle identity early on in life. That's a tragedy to me, But it's
devil's
not
advocate.
All right.
I think it's also the time to grow. If they're ready and if they're willing.
100%.
Half of my 20s was wasted because I was just living in the good old days like Uncle Rico. But I knew I had to change, and I knew there was a higher calling, and it's just the right timing. I met the right people. I've grown with the right people, and it's just these 31's coming around the corner, and I'm like, fuck. And I'm so excited at the same time because I've never been more aligned with my values, more aligned
Yeah.
with my soul, my mind, body, and soul, and just elevating. Like Peter, as much of a sailor and potty mouth I have, I realize that some of the things I say are totally out of pocket, and I'm working on it. But like, I need that, and it helps me grow as a person. Because then I'm like, oh wow, wait, that was a little messed up.
Right.
That was a little, okay, I'm going a little too far. But also the fact that we could go back and forth. Like, guys, like, you need certain people in your life just to elevate you. And my thing is, if you're being a piece of shit, like, I want you, like, excuse me, if I'm being a piece of shit, Peter, I want you to call me out on it. Like, I want you to be like, bro, not cool. Don't do that. That's not right. I have a really good friend of mine, David. Half my jokes, he was like, dude, you gotta stop. Like, that's canceled culture. To the fact that, like, he's like, if you were a comedian, I could understand, but that's not your job. That's not your agenda. It's not funny. So I'm learning and growing through conversations, through discussions, and this is what the arena is, guys. Is for you guys to learn and grow. Is for you guys to accept and acknowledge that even in decaying, you can overcome and prosper and evolve. Don't give up hope just because you guys are in a certain state of your life where you feel hopeless. That's just my 2 cents. I feel like you can save the decaying, but
Oh yeah.
to a certain extent, if it hurts your mental health, you must cut the cord. See you later.
I look at it as this. We get too wrapped in, I mean, one of the killers of growth is this idea that, like, oh, it's too late. I've already wasted too much time. I'm too
Yeah.
old. I'm too broke. I'm too whatever. The relationship is too far gone. We can't salvage it. Bullshit.
Mm.
You're just coming up with excuses not to put the work in. Like, But
Ding 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 ding.
don't give up hope. Absolutely. Because the truth is it's never too late. But I'm not going to go easy on anybody. Me. It's like, I'm not going to go easy on anybody and say, like, oh, you can throw around excuses. Hell no. I'll call you right out on your bullshit and your excuses. But if you're actually committed, like, that's the key. I mean, that's really, so that's why I talk about the whole, a brittle and static identity is dangerous only if you stay in it. Because in the moment, you can change. Transformation happens in a moment. We put in the work, we put in the discipline, the consistency to just engage with the process of growth. But transformation is not a linear process, right? Personal growth is not a linear thing. You don't like, oh, this day, it's not like, it's not incremental.
Yeah.
It's damn well not linear. It's an exponential, mystical process. And that's why I can provide formulas and some frameworks, but at the end of the day, reason will fail you. Reason will fail to take you all the way. That's where reason can help you, but it will fail you if that's what you're relying on solely, which is a danger in our Western world because we elevate reason to the level of God and think that, oh, if I think, therefore I am, that quote. And it's just, therefore, and if we extrapolate it, therefore I am God because I think. And then we think that, then intellect is the highest form of, like, being. And then ChatGPT comes along and people are freaking out about AI because we think, wow, it knows so much. It must be God. But God is more than intellect and knowledge, right? God is spirit and mystery, beauty and love, and completely undefinable and unquantifiable. But our own experience of personal growth and transformation ultimately comes down to realizing. I got a mint in my mouth. I don't know if you guys can hear it clattering around on my teeth. I can, and it feels weird. Personal growth I've said this before. I'm against personal development because it has a presupposition that you need to become something that you're not, because then that is a presupposition that you are not good enough. To hell with that. That's a slap in the face to God, who has made you. Right? It says he looked upon his creation and said that it was good and that it was very good. And that it's us who get in the way and say, oh, it's not good enough. But buy my seminar and you can be good like me. Look how much money I make selling people on shit seminars. Then it turns out you break down the science and all it does is release hormones that degrade. So you go to a weekend, and this is the key, guys. If you go to some weekend jackass seminar, get motivated, releases hormones, feels great at the moment, and then those hormones degrade and it leaves you worse off than before. Why? Because it's actually it's robbing resources from your body. It's just, I mean, there's so much we could rabbit hole on that. I'm not going to. So the key then is to actually do the real work, the inner work that lifts the foundation. That's the key. If you're not reworking, if you're not raising the bottom level, it's not going to carry you. It's not going to support you. And that's right. So the foundation comes from within, comes with that inner work, which is self-discovery, not self-development. And that presupposition is that you already have everything that you need. The real question then becomes, do you have the courage and the humility to accept it? Because so much of our life is a struggle unnecessarily, just simply because out of the pride of trying to determine a life that is not right for us, because we think, oh, that's what I want, but it's not always what you need. In fact, oftentimes it's not, because reality, it's like children running around saying, oh, I want ice cream. You don't just give them ice cream endlessly, because then they're not they're not receiving the right nutrition. So sometimes we rant against God and life. Again, I speak from experience, because because we don't like the way it is, because we think it should be better. But when we can simply receive with gratitude, it's, oh man, there's a perfect, to the man who could say, to the person who gives thanks, to the person that gives gratitude, practices gratitude, all things become sacred. Because by practicing gratitude, by giving thanks, we realize, or rather the scales fall away and we can see that all things already are sacred. All things already are working out in the best possible way for you. You just might not like your bitter medicine at times, but it's only bitter because you're gagging on it. You know what I mean? Life is only so damn hard because we kick against the pricks, as it says, right? Because we have such ego as to think, oh, well, I've got to have it this way. And that can be compounded, as you referenced earlier, with the expectations, societal expectations, or that linear thing of like, well, I got to have the house, we got to have the car, the wife, like, marriage is great. Absolutely pursue marriage in the right way, in the healthy way, but don't make it this mad dependency where, like, I got to find a wife or else my life is over. And I talk to too many young guys who are like that. And I'm like, please just develop yourself a little more. Like, I get it. I can speak to it from experience there, but it's like, you'll do yourself and her such a favor if you just work on developing yourself first, because she doesn't want a dependent baby for a husband. So
I mean, come on. I want a little bit of affection once in a while, Peter.
that's
God
not
damn
what
it. That's so hard.
that's so radically different, right? That's two healthy people coming together. Absolutely. And when you work on yourself, all of a sudden your relationship transforms and turns into, and then when you can grow together, like, things open up
Yes.
that you wouldn't have imagined on the front end. Attraction, intimate, like, connection, depth opens up, and it is impossible to explain, like, the depth of love you can develop for a person after going through hard times with that person, right? After having been in a lot of fights and a lot of difficulty, and yet on the other side of that, starting to have like a far deeper connection that, man, that just the world of facade can never touch. Our Hollywood, Instagram world that's obsessed with the external image, which is, but when you look at the internals, it's like, man, there's a lot of ugly people that have a lot of followers because they have no depth, they have no grit. There's nothing there, you know? So I mean, also to any guys who are in that state where they're like, I want to get married, I want a meaningful relationship, stop following Instagram models, I mean whores. Get a real fucking life. Stop giving these women attention too. They don't deserve it. They just keep doing it because they're getting attention. Don't feed the damn cycle. And this comes down to a deeper thing. If you want to break a cycle, don't fight it. That's the other problem with, like if I'm straight up back to red pill, blue pill, and kind of left and right and all these kind of things, a lot of time, like my belief systems, etc., land more on the right side, right? I'm not saying like right as incorrect. I'm just saying on the right, on the conservative side. But the worst thing you can do is go and fight the problems that you dislike in the world, because all you're doing is asking for those problems to expand. Same thing within yourself. When you go fight depression, you don't fight depression head on. That's a stupid thing to do. How the hell do you win? You don't. You don't fight your anxiety head on, right? You transmute it. You harness the energy because it's actually there for you already. You harness that energy because the energy cannot be created or destroyed, not by us. So we harness and transmute that energy that is already there waiting for you. So that's the thing, coming back to mental health. It's sad. It's a tragedy to stifle it, to bottle it up in a little jar and pressure cook it, because you're just wasting your energy. Energy you can be using for your healing. Right? So learn to harness it and transmute it, and that only happens when you sit with it, which is back around to, why is it hard to ask for help? Because you got to acknowledge weakness. And deeper than that, I think most men are walking around with a scared little boy inside. And this is a problem with our Western culture. We mature psychologically, intellectually, because, not quite psychologically, but intellectually we mature. Because we got a school system that kind of takes everybody through that, and you got to pass your tests and all that stuff. Is it a good? I have so many issues with our education system. I think it's broken. But, overall, people are at least can read and write. Okay. So we kind of mature intellectually, and we're good at it. Like if you really want to go there and get really, really educated, we got great systems for that. Do I all my personal, like you can go spend your whole life as an academic, right? And you mature physically because you can't not. Your body just grows whether you want it to or not. You're going to go through puberty no matter what any woke crazies are going to tell you. You're going through puberty and your body's going to do its thing. All right. And you're you don't choose that. It's not a choice. Your body's just going to do it, and you're along for the ride, right? Your body's going to mature, and you can go, you can develop it. Then the choice you have is, do I take care of my body? The choice you have is, do I develop my body? Right? As a man, am I going to go work out, and am I going to build muscle? Am I going to tone? Am I going to have a physique I'm proud of? Or am I going to waste it and come up with excuses? All these damn excuses. And listen, everybody, like, I don't care. Talk. Anytime there's a but, I'd be fit, but excuse is all that's coming next. And it's a bullshit narrative story that you're telling yourself, and it's time to end the story, right? Because there's always a way. If all that matters, listen, all that matters is, what do you actually want?
Tacos and beer.
There you go. Then you'll find a way to get tacos and beer, right? No, I mean, but yeah, straight up, that's how it works, though. You want to know what you want? Look at your life. Look at what you have right now. That's what you want unconsciously.
Yeah.
Prove me right. Like, I invite anybody. Like, Prove me wrong. I'll put out the sign on that one. Want to know what you want? Look at your life. It's what you already have. Prove me wrong. Because that's the reality. But you do get to, so you don't go from the external and try to change these things externally. You go within and shift your identity, shift your set point, shift your mindset. And that's where transformation is an inside job. It's not an outside job, right? Even physique wise. I had an experience a couple years ago where I could never really gain weight. I was really like unhealthy skinny, and I cleared some stuff inside, and all of a sudden I started to gain, which is like opposite of most dudes. I know most
Yo,
people are, I'm
dude,
trying to
a
lose
little
the weight,
jealous.
trying to lose the weight, right? For me, I realized, I mean, what it was this emotional wounding where I was trying not to be a target, make myself as small as possible, right? And I was like 150, 155 pounds was the high end. Yeah.
Bro, I'm fucking
It's kind of
jealous.
scary. Now, like, it's fucking scary. I just, like, pulled up some pictures. Holy shit. Like, unhealthy. How damn skinny I was, you know? But that was,
What are you at now?
like, 185, so I don't know. I don't have a scale.
Just so you guys know, he's a hot dad. Like, dude, I see so many dads have kids and they just forget about themselves and then they feed their kids garbage. You at least work out, you're active, you meditate because you take care of you and your family as one being, as one unit. And I just want to point that out for men's mental health, guys. Drive that factor. Don't let it just be about yourself sometimes. Your family's important, but work as one unit to be better.
100%. Yeah, and you do it for, right, that's the interesting duality, once again, is self-care is for the sake of others, right? But it's also for you. Neither one is, it's not exclusive. We get all wrapped up in, wow, can only be, no. Same thing as like, oh, it's red pill or blue. No, it's not.
Mhm.
Get lost with these stupid ass binary decisions. It's the devil's choice. One or the other. No, no, it's not. You get to write the script. You know what I mean? You don't write. It's just,
Fuck yeah.
if you want to rewrite the game, get a great coach. There's my pitch, right? A good coach will help you win the game that you're playing right now. A great coach will help you rewrite the damn game. You want to experience that? Talk to me. All right. So, men, grown men, because we mature intellectually and we mature physically, but our culture sucks ass at maturing emotionally.
Yes.
And so, as a result, I think the majority of men out there are walking around with a little boy inside, an emotional, the emotional being, which is really the inner child. We talk about the inner child. Now, there's a healthy inner child, but a lot of us, if you don't mature your inner child, it's a scared little boy who wants to reach up and grab the wheel as you're driving down the freeway of life. Big problem, right? And that's what we term self-sabotage. And then we turn it into a fight. And we're like, discipline. And I'm going to do 75 hard. Oh, yeah? I'll show you, you dumbass little kid. Shut the fuck up. I'm going to do 75 hard, little bitch. You know? Don't be a little bitch. Rub some dirt in it. You know? Man up. All that kind of bullshit. And it's hard saying bullshit because I'm like, there's parts of it. It's not all wrong. It's not all wrong, and I never want to throw the baby out with the bath water. There's times where you gotta man up. That means rising to the challenge. But damn, you really want to man up? Go inside and deal with your scared little boy inside. That takes a man. That takes a father, which is the archetype of all manhood. What are we here to be is the wise king. The wise king is a father and a guide and a nurturer of his people. He sacrifices himself for the greater good of the culture and the order and the community and the family that he is responsible for. It's no longer about him. Does he practice self-care? Damn straight he practices self-care. Is he going to make Instagram posts about going to the day spa? No, because who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? Like, that's just my own person. I just kind of get sick of the stuff where guys are like, oh, I'm into my face creams. I'm like, I don't give a damn, and I don't want to know about it. I'm glad you think your skin is the biggest organ in your body, so that justifies like putting a whole lot of time. And then, oh, and by the way, I have some to sell you. No, no, take your
Sorry.
MLM and shove it up your ass. Because you know how I feel about MLMs. All right, so back on track.
Dude,
Now that the
I'm
unfiltered
crying.
side is done. All right, so maturing the inner child. Obviously, I've still got an inner child going on. You know what I mean? Like the immaturity comes out. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not here to put on a facade and pretend like. And that's the stupidest thing you can do. Fake it till you make it. God damn, what a bunch of bull. Please don't. You're just faking it till you burn out to a
Why?
crisp. Huh?
Why you say that? Why you say that?
Because why are you faking it? Just be it. When you're faking it, it's the same thing as manifest, or it's the same as the law of attraction versus the law of assumption. Attraction, you're saying it's away from you. You have a presupposition that this is something I want to be. I'm going to be confident. That means you're not confident now. Start
Okay.
being now. It comes back to what you were saying earlier, being in the state of being. If you're saying, I want to be confident, you're just saying you're not confident. If we just strip it down, drop it in an acid bath and see what's left, all that's left is, I'm not confident. I want to
I
be
like
good
that.
enough.
Yeah.
Be good enough. Because there's nothing lacking in you other than your mentality. And I've got to just pause and just speak the compassion of the listen, I have deep compassion for knowing how difficult it is when you're lost in the midst of that. Right? But and with that, I just want you to know, but it's never, don't get stuck in it. Start to identify the ways that you're holding yourself back, and don't beat yourself up for it. If you feel like you're not good enough, don't beat yourself up more for it. Find a way through it. And the best way through it is to reach out and ask for help.
Speaking of, pop.
Mm,
I had it saved for this moment. Just waiting
yeah.
for the right timing. Yeah, check us
So
out.
that's why,
Join the Brotherhood.
yeah, there it is. Link to the Brotherhood. Join us there. I mean, yeah, and that is a place where we're cultivating exactly that. It's a place where when you are struggling, that's where you can reach out, because it's a community of men that are going to support you, not judge you. Once again, so just to repeat that same message, if you want growth, you can't have judgment. You can't have judgment and growth and healing at the same time. You can have growth or judgment. Pick one. So drop the damn judgment and grow. Stop judging yourself and don't judge others. But if you want to stop judging others, just don't judge yourself. And when you do find yourself judging others, that's a reflection of your own self-judgment.
Touche.
All right, so did I answer on why I don't believe in fake it till you make it, or you want to play some more devil's advocate?
Well, yeah.
Step in the ring. Let's do.
Well, it's something that it's something that I practiced as I was younger, and unfortunately, you answer that question with like a clip and a Glock. I'm like, oh fuck, that was quick. Like, he just ruined that.
Ready for a fight, you know that. But no, I mean,
I didn't realize.
And to be fair though, like if it's getting you like the bottom, here's the most important thing: movement. Progress is power. If faking it till you make it is what you know, like I don't know. Now that you're on the show, well, now I just ruined that one for you. But go deeper, because I ruined that so you can have something greater and deeper, and join the Brotherhood and get more get more resources on that. Ask questions. I'm open, like I am available there, right? But my point is, like, if fake it till you make it is what you know, or something is what you know, and it gets you to move, then damn well tap into it. It's energy, it's movement. That's good. I'm not going to say that there's anything bad about that. It's just a matter of, great, now how do we take it to the next level? That's always the question. What is the further evolution of it? And to evolve, you have to let go of what you've been. You have to die to your old self so that you can be reborn as your new self. And what that really is like you're dying to the facade, and fake it is a facade. If you're not willing to die to the fake, you will not be the true. And truth cuts through. Truth is eternal.
All right, Shakespeare. Let's fucking go. Like, you got some fire quotes today. I'm a little jealous. Like, but no, I just love that because I think that it was definitely used. I used it as a stepping stone, and then I don't even think I personally realized it through working with you. The truth, right? Like I was using that my whole life. They continue to make it in my 20s. We start working together, and no, it already is. It already is. It already is in abundance, and it's just such a better philosophy, and it works so much faster. And the best thing is like you just told me stop eliminating it. That was an amazing like
Mm.
how many different opportunities have arose or just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it's just
Oh
shit just
yeah.
got thrown at my face. I'm like, what happened? How did this happen?
You were
When was
yeah.
this happening?
You lower your
You know?
barriers. That's what happened. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just chuckling too because I'm thinking, yeah, like I don't know. I really don't have any patience for fakery. So like, yeah, that's part of the thing. Be warned. Join the brotherhood, or work with me personally. But like, it's not for the faint of heart because there's no space for your facade in that space.
Peter, you put up with me. Come on. Come on.
Not with your
Listen,
fakery.
not with my what?
Not with the false you. You know what I'm getting? I'm
No.
just like, there's no space for being fake. But that's why it's a place of growth. Is because
Yeah.
we're gonna dive deep, and it's just a matter of it's unmasking. So that's a principle. Just to move it back into unmasking is a principle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a necessity, I believe, for men when we talk about the transition from boy to man, because that's what coming back to then the immature emotional boy, right, inside of a grown man's body. That's a scary thing to deal with. And the symptoms of that are overcompensation.
Speaking of immature, uh, one of my homies, she has her art business. I want to support her. Nameless. They're great peaches, but I just thought it was funny. You talk about immature men. I would say lean into your gift, guys. Lean into your gifts. Be yourself, be professional, and support the homies. Like we're all trying to do our thing, right? Like art and passion and writing is my thing, and Peter's thing is getting you to understand your true self. He's gonna. I don't even want to say lift you up. It's almost more like baptism. It's more like baptism because like I feel cleansed.
Hmm.
I feel lighter since working with you, since being with you, being a partner with you. I just don't want to scare the shy guys. I don't want to scare those guys away because I'm timid at first, and there's other people that just they don't know how to be themselves. This is
No,
a
I know.
stepping
Yeah,
stone for them. And
yeah. It's a
guys, work with Peter, work with me, listen to our podcast, listen to the resources. Just don't be afraid to take the
jump
first
in.
step. And in that unmasking, it's a whole different level of getting to know us and getting to know yourself in order for
Yeah,
you to be your true self.
it's unmasking is an experience. Like it's an experience. It's something to be treated on the level of sacred because it's profound, it's vulnerable, and so it's also important to be aware of that is happening around with and around the right people. I've I've had experience where somebody would use the methodology that would bring you to an unmasking experience, but when he broke you down, rebuild you the way he wanted to, which was under his thumb. Right. So, and as part of my education, like, I don't know, I've lived like 3 lifetimes in these 34 years now, feels like, with radically different seasons and periods. And what part of that experience was working with this person, being kind of one of his right hand guys, kind of, but also receiving that abuse. It's an abuse of influence. It's an abuse of power. right? And it's highly pertinent to all sales and marketing as well. Sales and marketing is just influence. It's all influence. So when you learn how to influence somebody, the dangerous thing is that that is power. And we in our modern culture have a thing about power where we treat it like it's bad, but all that's really happening, if you follow kind of the craziness on the woke side, is they're just trying to redistribute it, which went really well in communism, by the way. Let's redistribute the power. All it does is create a power vacuum, and the most psychotic person usually is the one who soaks up all the power in those. So it's something to be very conscious of, and it's just history. And yeah, anyway, it just drives me nuts when people, oh well, they didn't implement it right. Oh, okay, so North Korea was better. No, they didn't implement it well either. Oh, okay. So show me somewhere where this neurotic idea was implemented well. It doesn't exist yet. Oh, interesting. But you're going to keep teaching it like it's the ideal. That's funny. Not. All right, so ranting, and I'm taking myself down a rabbit trail, and I forgot where I started. Um,
Oh,
the
if you don't,
abuse of power. Power does not mean that power should be abdicated. That's the problem. That's a message that is far too prevalent for men, because masculine energy is power. It is powerful. All right, and so we've been taught it's a prevalent message. It's often unconscious, but it's just like this. It's like it infuses the airwaves. And interesting. Well, now that we understand, do you know the guy who invented the radio? They wanted to lock him up in an insane asylum.
it's none of that.
Yeah. Yeah. They were threatening to lock him up in the insane asylum because he was talking about sending messages through the air. They thought he was possessed by demons or just mentally insane, right? How could you even, because small-minded people cannot conceive of the new because they're just stuck in the, well, I just live my little dum-de-dum-de-dum life and I just deal with what's real, what I can see. I'll believe it when I see it. And this guy, because he believed it, he saw it, right? He'll see, he understood that you see it when you believe it. And we still don't see the radio waves, but all I'm getting at is now our technology's progressed astronomically to the point where now it's, people freaking out about 5Gs. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of things to be wary of there. I turn the Wi-Fi off at night so we all sleep better. But nonetheless, we're inundated with just waves in the air that are carrying information. So all that to say, there's on a different level, there's like an energetic pressure in the
Yes.
atmosphere of our society. I don't know what it's like in other countries, definitely here, very strong in America, that there's something wrong with masculine power and men shouldn't be confident and all this bullshit. And the problem is, like, no matter how much you might see, yeah, that's dumb, that's stupid, I don't want that, it's still influencing you. And that's just the reality that we have to live in, is that we just have to recognize that our environment is toxic.
Yeah.
And they call masculinity toxic. That's the irony. Masculinity is not toxic. There might be toxic people who abuse masculinity, but masculinity is not toxic. Anybody that wants to use that argument is ignorant. And at that point, then they damn well better say femininity is toxic too. What are you trying to say? And that is the thing when you once again put that in an acid bath, and what's going on behind this message is an anti-human message at its core. A lot too much progressive thought has gone far over the cliff, and now it's anti-human. They think that humans are a cancer upon the planet, and they really like to take it out on men because we say, oh, the patriarchal societies created all the problems, blah blah blah. There might have been corrupt kings and patriarchs. There absolutely were and are. I mean, look who's in office now. God damn. Right? Yeah. There's a lot of jacked up people in the world, and it doesn't discriminate by gender. But to say that masculinity is toxic is a damn shame. But it's the same as saying that power is somehow toxic, right? And that we should abdicate our, this is the worst thing you can do. Lean into your power and learn how to use it. That's the path of maturity, is when you realize it's, again, the path of the samurai. When you go from a fool with a knife, man, have you watched the Samurai trilogy? I can't
No.
remember the director. It's like one of these,
That was
it's a
Tom
black and white.
Cruise.
No, God. No, that's
Just Tom Cruise, you just got like yucked out. That your ick.
no, it's just that movie. It lacks. It just lacks. It's like it's like synthetic flavor.
Okay.
There was aspects of it that I liked, but overall, it just felt like a Hollywood synthetic flavor. So the Samurai trilogy, black and white. I cannot remember the director, but it was uh, Toshiro Mifune who acted the plays the samurai, who's you know he also played in he acts in a lot of the Akira Kurosawa movies, and that combo is amazing. I love Redbeard, which is like the lesser known Akira Kurosawa movie, is I think his just I mean it's up there like there's been multiple times where I've said it's my favorite movie, so it's up there ranking at the top. It's such an incredible movie, and I highly recommend anybody to watch that. Deeply profound and moving. But so the Samurai trilogy, part of it is that he's good at first, but he's wild. He's undisciplined. And so an old master gets a hold of him and actually just locks him in an attic, tricks him into going up into the attic of a castle and locks him up there with a bunch of books and tells him, you got to sit with yourself. Right.
Oh
And
shit.
so it's part of this maturing process of this guy who's very good with the sword, but he's undisciplined. And because of that, he's as much a threat, a danger as he has a support, and no shogun is going to take him as a real samurai. Right? So he has to be tempered as steel is tempered in the fire. There is no other way. That's one thing. Sometimes we're like, oh, I want the easy path. It's not going to happen.
Fuck that.
Steel is only tempered in fire. And here's the thing, and this comes back to I guess my just commentary of on my own the process of working with me as well as like I believe that reducing the intensity of the heat is reducing the quality of the steel. Right? That's the reality. Like if you spend less time, if you put that steel in the the iron, the pig iron, take that pig iron and you don't put it in the fire long enough, it's weak and it's worthless. And we all, as men, are the same. The less that we get put in the fire, honestly, the more worthless we are to ourselves and everybody around. There's a purging fire. There's a purging process that draws out the real strength. It oxidizes the iron and turns it into steel, and it's tempered and honed into something that is flexible and yet cuts through anything. That's the greatest. Again, I'm just blown away by you had the greatest swordsman with the greatest swords, arguably, right? Was the samurai with the katana. The katana was the steel that was folded hundreds of times, which is that process. So again, you can just look at that as an analogy of our own development. Is the raw materials there? It's a matter of tempering it. And the tempering, what it does is it removes impurities. So again, back to this idea of self-discovery rather than self-development. Self-development, you can spend your whole life ignoring the mirror because you can live in some stupid fantasy. Oh, I'm going after my goals, I'm developing, and it'll never purge you of your impurities. Self-discovery, the first step you take in that journey, and I know I'm scaring guys off again. You can
No,
yeah,
no.
you can,
This is the right moment.
but the first step you take in that journey, you face your impurity. You face yourself. That's it. And it's not impurity of like shame or like, oh, I'm an addict. It's just what the impurities are is all the garbage that we've like applied to ourselves. Right. And
Yeah,
that's why
cool.
my other analogy of it is cleaning out the cistern, where a cistern meant to carry water and turn that water into wine. But we're oftentimes gummed up and full of shit. And the real problem, men, the real problem is they get really good at selling their shit. Look at
Oh yeah.
politicians. You know what I mean? They get really good at, well, this is the memorized state of being. That's the problem, is we identify with our memorized state, which is kind of personality, but it's a false personality, right? Your memorized state becomes your personality, and it becomes your identity. And then it literally is a death to the old self, because the old self is not your true self. And I say literally because neural pathways die when you do this work. Because you have neural pathways that are wired to fire a certain way in alignment with your current bullshit identity, right? And when you cut that off, when you change your identity, those neural pathways shrivel and die. Physiologically, you are going through a death. That's why it is difficult, and there will be resistance, because your biology and your neurology, this is the interesting thing. We worship the brain once again. Interesting that the Egyptians did not. They thought it was a worthless organ and would pull it right out of mummies and throw it away, whereas the heart was preserved. And also the electromagnetic field produced by the heart is 10 times larger than that of the brain. The electromagnetic field of your heart, the energy of your heart expands far outside your body, whereas the brain just kind of sits in here, interestingly. So all that to say, our brain is actually rather dumb. It needs guidance.
Oh yeah.
Because if your brain is left to its own devices, it'll just run on fear, anxiety, and self-preservation. So once again, self-preservation kicks in when you're about to kill off neural pathways, when you're doing the work of rebuilding your identity, discovering and renewing your identity, right? Oh man, that's another quote that I just put out recently from the Desert Fathers. If I had not destroyed myself completely, I would not have been able to rebuild myself.
Ooh. So, out of curiosity, how many times have you, quote unquote, rebuild yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not keeping
That's
count.
the perfect answer. Well, no, it's good to know, because I think with a lot of people, it's just like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to rebuild myself. And then I'm there.
One and
No,
done. Yeah, no.
no, it's not. It's not one and done.
No,
It's a
it's a
process.
continuing journey. And
Yeah.
that's why
But
it's
like,
like, are you... Go ahead. Sorry.
we'll just say, like, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to continue that process. That, I don't know how many career changes I've done, but that's also
Yeah.
personal changes, right? Like, it's okay. You don't need to just follow one way and run with it. You follow one way, and then you're going to diverge. You're going to change. You're going to transmute. Stop
Right.
being afraid of change.
Flow with it. Don't become rigid in it. Because once again, rigidity is death. And the other thing is there's a phenomenal shift that can happen though, because the thing is, like, you really have to challenge yourself with the question of, and I'm speaking to everybody, us universally as men, have to challenge ourselves with the question of, am I committed to doing that work every damn day? Because it's not a one and done. It's every damn day that we're growing. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. Look at nature. There is no just coasting. Oh, I'm just like, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. Things are growing or they're dying. So what are you going to do? If you engage with growth, that does mean you are engaging with the process of being tempered every day. And that means that every day, or, give or take, you're going through a death and rebirth process at a micro level. Like, a lot of times it's just small little, and that's the beauty of making these small shifts. But when you make the small shift of, I'm going to tidy my desk up, that is a small death. Because what just died was the messy desk dude. And what was just born was a clean desk, or an orderly desk dude. Brah. Yo. Right? My desk is so clean, bro. Surfer dude. No, I mean, some people are less orderly than others, and that's fine. That's a personality trait, and it's not like that's not something that you necessarily. I'm not suggesting that you fight yourself for the rest of your life to clean your desk. I'm giving an example of there are so many. So don't become rigid with now you need to clean your desk. I mean, I know some people that they operate best in a state of chaos. So don't fight yourself,
Yeah.
find your flow, right? But my point through it all, the takeaway is that there are always a myriad, infinite opportunities to make small changes. And that's the best place to engage with. Because when you say, I'm going to rebuild myself completely, or like, you're not Abba Alonius, that's the guy I just quoted. I'm not anywhere near that. Don't pretend that you can destroy yourself completely, because I mean, that's above our level. But what we can do is destroy little habits and rebuild little habits and keep that work up every day. And if we can commit to that, your transformation becomes inevitable, right? That's the beauty. You don't get to know when. Coming back to that idea of like how we can drive ourselves mad with our pride when we think, oh, I need to know when. I need to know how. Right? That's where a lot of people get tripped up on manifesting. Like, I'm going to manifest a better life. I'm going to change my identity, all this stuff. And then we're like, all right, by this time, this way, this person's going to call me. Probably not. Somebody you don't know is going to call you with an opportunity you never would have dreamed of when you're in the state of flow. Flow looks different for every person. That's why that, that's just why you have to do the work, and why really it becomes ideal to find somebody who can guide you through the process of self-discovery. Because I believe you can't do it by yourself. I may be wrong there, but I really firmly believe that it is not possible for people to go through the process alone. I think that we have awakenings that guide us to find the guide on our own, but then it's the further continuation of growth is contingent on, do we activate? Do we ask for help from that guide? It's in every hero's journey. Luke finds Yoda because Ben Kenobi starts
Oh
him
my
on his
god.
journey. Ben Kenobi
You're
starts him on the
saying?
journey and then says, you got to go to Yoda because he's going to finish your training.
So wait. Pause. Are you gonna say that like I don't know. I can't see you as Yoda.
Who do you see me as in that universe?
Oh, damn. Mm, part of me wants to say a mix of a Sith that I love dearly just due to his power assertion, his Darth Maul. Like he has a direction, and then Mace Windu just because of his wisdom. Like he's always like, this is moral in order, justice. But no, I love that. I really do agree with you. I do think that there's guides in every person's hero's journey.
Right.
This is the modern Merlin, guys, right here.
That's right. It's so one of the places then on the, just to riff on the hero's journey and the life roles and all that, and I Yoda, yeah, I do love that. Darth Maul's great. I mean, he's makes a lot of poor choices, but I mean, when you see, like, his whole story as it plays out is so fantastic. Resonate with that character in a lot of ways, yes. So Yoda. Most people haven't watched as much of all the like animated, backstory kind of plot lines and all this stuff that is out there. Like Rebels is the less like Clone Wars. A lot of people have seen Rebels, not so much. Rebels has great context, especially on Ahsoka and what's going on with this new season. Which Balin Skull is a great character. He's a magician archetype, by the way. So Yoda though has to go on this profound journey of self-discovery toward what is it? Season 6 has a really strong multi-episode Yoda arc where he goes to Korriban, faces the place of darkness, Then he goes to uh, Dagobah and has a vision of what's going to happen. And then he's taken to a place outside the world by these spirits, by the wills, these wisps. And it's there that he has to have his final challenge. He has to go into this dark place. But it's a time outside of time. It's a world outside of the worlds. And that's what's key here is every wizard has an experience like that. And it's interesting. So I really obsess over, and this is what's leading into, some of my long-term plays here, of like the game studio and the world I've shared a little bit with you about, and the way that's coming together. Because I mean, one of the things I'm excited. It's interesting to example of like you don't know how things are going to unfold. A year ago, definitely even 6 months ago, I wouldn't have thought a game studio and a full-on game world, like developing a world, wasn't on my radar as something that I would be doing. But recently, it's just been like a lot of heavy inspiration. So I've just been downloading and typing it out and just starting to set notes aside, because I really love archetype and stories and the way that we can use mythology to carry meaning and symbolism. So anyway, each archetypal role, and this is part of the issue when we just come back to, sorry to make it a little political here, but I mean, just coming back, it's not even political. It's just like, it's just dealing with the human race and the state of our culture. The problem with woke is that they try to remove archetypes and say they don't exist, and you can just whatever doesn't. That's madness. It's insanity, and it leaves people completely unstable because there's no foundation. Nietzsche spoke to that. Nietzsche talks about that all the time, and God is dead. He wasn't saying that like ha 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 ha. He's just pronouncing what already was in Western society, which claimed to be Christian, ironically, and that's an issue a lot of Christians don't want to deal with and face, because they don't like, anyway. God is dead, and then now what? Well, now each man becomes his own god is the only thing that's left. It's madness. It's chaos is what ensues, and there's even some really fascinating ancient myths that speak to that same kind of story and the aftermath. And it is apocalyptic until a new order is established. There always must be an order, and the order doesn't get reinvented because there is timeless truth. Back to that. You want to cut through the noise, become true, be your true self. And you'll tap into a power and a confidence you'll never have to advertise. You'll never have to make a YouTube video about how to assert dominance. How to advertise insecurity, right?
Yeah.
If you have an issue where you feel like you need to assert dominance, it's because you haven't asserted dominance on yourself, and you're being right. That's the place. That's the place to take your masculine, and back to the whole idea of power. And we fear power. Well, the people that we should be like to fear are the ones that have never applied it within. And that's what sets the Desert Fathers apart and other ancient mystics, wise men, like transcendent people always practiced an inward journey. They were not obsessed with how do I go dominate others, because they realize it's a pointless game. It's not the point of life. What's the meaning of life? Well, it's not that, because it's empty and vapid. You can go conquer the world, and then the next thing you know, Attila the Hun. And side note, how does Attila the Hun die? Nosebleed. On his way back from Rome, which, by the way, was Saint Leo, Pope of Rome. Then that was before Catholic was a thing, by the way. Sorry, not to you personally, but I'm just like history, like, I don't know. A lot of times it's thought that like, anyway, there's just so much different interesting history to tap into there. Saint Leo of Rome comes out and confronts Attila the Hun, and it's the first time he turns around. He was at the border of Rome. He turns around because he has this. It was a mystical experience. He confronted a man who was more of a man than he was. Even though he had conquered the world, nobody could match him. Nobody could beat him. He was the big bad boss, right? He could dominate anybody except for the man who had dominated himself, who had gone within so much deeper than Attila the Hun ever had, because Attila the Hun was playing an outward game. But St. Leo had played the inward game. How do I gain self-mastery? You know? How do I face myself? How do I go through the crucible of that purging fire? So Attila the Hun meets his match. And it's not his match. He meets someone who has surpassed him and greater than him, turns around. On his way back, picks up another wife, like the 3000th or so. The Big Mac Daddy, because there's two. I think he's the one. Yeah, I think it's Attila the Hun and King Ulian, who is where we get the name O'Neill, last name O'Neill. There's more descendants of those two dudes than anybody else. So it was an Irishman and the Hun, like the wild man of the north, and then the Irishmen who were just like, yeah, let's somehow have the energy and stamina to have a couple thousand wives. Anyway.
My mind.
Oh, he's picking up his most recent wife, and at the wedding, they all get drunk and goes to the nuptial tent, walks into the pole, falls down with a nosebleed, passes out. Nobody comes in because you don't want to interrupt that. She's scared, sits in the bed, doesn't do anything, and he chokes on his own blood. That's how Attila the Hun died. So it's an interesting story. It's an interesting, timeless truth that the people that seek great power and through dominance, it doesn't go well because it's not lasting. It's not meaningful. It's not transcendent. So all that back to Yoda has to go on a journey where he is stripped of his pride of being the grand master of the Jedi that have held peace in the galaxy for thousands of years, right? But they've become stale. They've become rigid and stiff. And he has to confront that because he has to confront himself. And that's the world outside the time outside of time, the world outside of the world, where he is ripped out and taken somewhere outside of time and space to face himself. And that's exactly what he does. He sees his shadow self and he tries to fight it, and he's powerless to fight it until he brings it in. He integrates the shadow. And in the process, he realizes his failure, but also the victory that is transcendent. That's a cool thing. It's a cool theme and I mean, it's something that I don't know. Lucas is such a funny dude because he makes like these terrible characters like Jar Jar. But he also does such a phenomenal job of creating a magical world. I mean, that's Willow, if anybody, like old school. Willow, fantastic. And it just has such a magical feel.
You're gonna hate me.
All right.
Never seen Willow from start to finish because the midget creeped me out.
That's fair.
Dude, it's just something about the Willow that I'm like, what the fuck, guy? And I want to, because I hear so many good things about it from my fantasy friends, like, from start to finish.
But yeah, all I'd say is stripped up because he was attached to external metrics, and because of that, the corruption had sprung up right under his very nose because he had exiled a shadow, because he had not integrated. Right. And so that's the danger. All that just to come back to, that's the danger of remaining rigidly set on a particular identity that serves you at the time. All of life is a stepping stone. So if you're not willing to let go of the current stepping stone, it becomes the anchor that holds you back from your destiny. Let go so that you can move forward. Take the next step. And it's a dynamic journey. It's an ongoing journey. And it's a crucible of a journey where you face yourself daily so that you can become yourself daily. And that's a beautiful thing.
The lover in me is inspired. That was... No, it's just spot on, bud. And not saying external factors are something you guys shouldn't look for, but I have to say, when you define and clarify your purpose as a man, it's that state of flow is so fluid. Like, for example, going after house, marriage, money. It's
Right.
they're honorable. I respect it, but it's not true for my purpose. Once I've leaned into what I need to actually do, what who I need to serve, and it's going to be different for everybody. But once you clarify that message for your soul, you will develop yourself, your confidence, your being, lean into your gifts in such a way that everything you want is already there because it already is. And fighting your demons is something you have to do in order to embrace this shadow self, in order to embrace your true calling. And that's how we become the Overman. Suffering is growth. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Can be. Depends on how we utilize it. You know? But yeah. Not to disagree with what you said at all. Just there's always that more dimension, you know. But absolutely, I think that yeah. So external metrics are fantastic, but don't attach yourself to them. That
Yep.
would be the key, right? Because external metrics are a great like. You, let's be real. You're not going to get far without. You just nobody's at that enlightened like spiritual state where we can just. Oh, I don't need external. Nah, you do. You know, just be real with yourself. And if you think they're not enlightened, they probably need a wake up call because it's just it's delusion when people think that like they're more spiritual than they are. Just be real. That's the best thing you can do. You want to be humble, be real. You want to be spiritual, be real. The best thing we can do as modern people, where we live in a culture that's been very disconnected, is just be real. Because you can't be spiritual if you have an emotional, like you have an immature emotion, like the inner child is immature and you think you're going to be spiritually mature. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? You can have spiritual experience, you might have spiritual awakening, but you're not going to become spiritually mature because you don't even know what that looks like yet, and you're damn well not ready for it. And I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else, because I just think it's delusional when people get too wrapped up in that. And it's like, just be real, be present, take care of what's at hand, take care of what's in front of you, right? If you're married, you got kids, that's what's in front of you. If you're not being present to your family, to your kids, you know, it's because you're not being present to yourself. And that's the beauty of being real, is it'll always take you back to that place of self-reflection and growth. And then using external metrics, though, is a great way to define your progress and also to motivate, right? Because yeah, you go start a business, well, there's metrics involved: revenue, reach, engagement, follower, like whatever your metrics are going to be, depending on your business. There's going to be a different important KPIs. You know, if you're going to be good at sales, well, you got to have a good close rate. Have a good close rate, you got to develop your sales skills. And to develop your sales skills, you got to be real with yourself. Because you're not going to do well if you're trying to use somebody else's techniques that aren't true to who you are, which is way too common in the sales world. Drives me nuts. So yeah, but when we attach ourselves to it of like, I got to achieve these things to be valuable, I got to achieve these things, then you know, you're not going after it authentically anymore. You're
Thank
going
you.
after it in a way that is it's manipulative, for the lack of a better word, but it's still just as true. It's a manipulative way to go out about it, because then you're trying to get something out of those things rather than pour yourself into them, which is our job. And you get out of it too, right? Like as we talked about, if you're in a narcissistic relationship, you're probably pouring yourself in and feeling drained all the time. But if you're in a healthy relationship, you're pouring yourself in and feeling rejuvenated. If you're doing the right work, you're pouring yourself in and feeling rejuvenated. That's a human design discussion too. Do you understand yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you know how your energy flows? Most people are generators and they have no idea how to operate with their own energy, and so they're trying to initiate, or they've said yes to things that they shouldn't, and they're feeling burned out. It's because you're doing the wrong work. When you do the right work, as anybody, it's a matter of knowing what your authority is, which will guide you to that right work. When you're doing the right work, you will feel invigorated doing it. Your energy will be restored. Doesn't mean you work 80-hour weeks or anything like that. It just means that you feel invigorated to do the right things. And when you're in tune with yourself, you'll know when you're doing the wrong things and when to stop. It's a really beautiful cycle.
It's rough. It's rough because you know what it is. It's like it's always fighting the desires and wants we have, and then it's just like to have it, you know. I think it's a maturity thing, knowing what's right for your soul in career, love, and yourself. And it's a process, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to dive deep because it's not part of this topic.
I think we're at the point to wrap anyway. So, what are your final thoughts wrapping us out?
My final thoughts is hopefully you guys reach out to us, check out the Brotherhood. If you can't, you're not comfortable, at least get some kind of guidance from loved ones that you trust. Take yourself seriously in this journey, in this process. There's nothing better than discovering who you are in self-love, and in self-love and in finding out who you already is will guide you to your purpose, and that's the most beautiful journey you'll see. There will be ups, there will be downs. It's a roller coaster, that is life, but there's nothing that God has given you that you can't handle. And just a daily reminder. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, your scars, the wounds, everything, right? Never to be ashamed of. It's just the signs of the battles that you have fought and won. So as much as I'm a hard ass and I know I say heavy things, I just want to remind every one of you out there, you already are a champion because you're here today, right? Because you've already been through battles. You've already you've already conquered so much. And so just too often we don't even give ourselves credit because we look, and that's you said earlier, you talk to yourself. That's actually a sign of high intelligence. It's one of the traits of high IQ people is they talk to themselves. And oddly, it's like kind of cultural taboo of like, oh, don't talk to yourself. That's weird. What's weird about it, right? A trait of high achievers is they're always comparing themselves to what's next. I'm guilty of that. But I want to remind everybody to stop and reflect on, look how far you've come. Look where you are. Look what you've already been through. Because I don't know your story specifically. I'm speaking to the audience. I don't know your stories specifically. But when I look in people's eyes, I know, the pain of life. You've already been through so much. So don't beat yourself up over not being where you think you should be. And if you're finding yourself in that comparison analysis cycle, unfollow these people on Instagram or wherever you are that you're comparing yourself to, because it's all bull. It's all a vanity highlight reel, and they're just lying to you because they're lying to themselves. And get real help. Get around the right circle that's going to lift you up, right? Because that's the power. So there's the pitch, join the Brotherhood, because it's the power of brothers speaking as a principle. You have that opportunity in the Brotherhood. If it aligns, if it resonates, join, obviously, right? Invitation is open, it's free. But to speak at a higher level as the principle of peer group, the right peer group, because most peer groups just tear you down. Most peer groups hold you at your current level and it becomes status quo and everybody gets comfortable and they get uncomfortable if you're going to grow. So find a better group. Find a brotherhood, because a brotherhood is going to lift you and hold you to a higher standard with compassion, which means you're not going to be judged for the struggles that you're going through. Because why would you be judged for fighting battles? because there is no crown without a victory, and there is no victory without a battle, and there is no battle without an opponent, right? You don't have a crown of victory without going through hardships, without going through trials and tribulations. So give yourself the credit for everything that you've already been through and take the next step. Commit to the journey, take action.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
And with that, we'll wrap it. High five.